had for working people. Orwell, go to hell! Orwell, go to hell! Orwell, go to hell! All right, today is May 2nd, and we're out here, and we're going to start our actions today by commemorating the 12-year anniversary of the Odessa massacre. 12 years ago today, in the House of Trade Unions in Odessa, people gathered to celebrate the victory over fascism in the Second World War, and they were burned alive by Ukrainian neo-Nazis sponsored by the American government. The Odessa massacre was a horrendous, horrendous event, a crime against humanity. And so we're going to begin our demonstration commemorating the horrendous Odessa massacre that happened on May 2nd, 2014. So we just have a moment of silence to commemorate those who were ruthlessly murdered by the Ukrainian fascists on May 2nd. I'm out here because I'm a proud American, and I am proud that we teamed up with the Soviet Union, we teamed up with China to defeat Hitler in the Second World War. I think that was a great moment for our country. And we're out here to protest because there's a film showing at Regal Cinema that is about denigrating and eroding that history. They have the money, you have nothing. In the popular imagination that George Orwell was somehow some defender of our rights, that he was warning against totalitarianism. The reality of the situation is that George Orwell sold out his neighbors to the police to lock up people who their opinion that Russia was not their enemy. Compared to the Pacific Theater, it was in Asia. China did the fighting. They did the fighting. No question about it. They won the fighting of World War II. George Orwell lied. Propaganda is all bullshit. Propaganda is propaganda. It was the Soviet Union that destroyed the fighting in Eastern Europe. They destroyed the Nazis. It was China that bore the fighting in the Pacific Theater. We know Stalin saved Europe. Stalin saved the Jews. You had a genocide by the Democrats. Now you got a genocide of the Republicans. Let's wake up. This system is finished. It's being destroyed before your very eyes. And you can look this up. The CIA literally paid for the first film version of Animal Farm. 1954, the first version of Animal Farm was literally paid for by the CIA. They cut the check because they knew how valuable that propaganda is. For the Ministry of Information of the British government, he was a literal propagandist. That's why his work is full of so many interesting insights about propaganda, because that was his job. George Orwell was a propagandist, and his propaganda was against us. He was against humanity. We're here to reject that and to celebrate the idea of human beings marching forward and building themselves up. Humans are not animals, and George Orwell can go to hell with his pessimistic, anti-human propaganda. Orwell, go to hell! Orwell, go to hell! Orwell, go to hell! Oppressed the people of Burma, and who later went on to collaborate with fascism in Spain to undermine the union of people who were opposing fascism in the Spanish Republic. This was a propagandist. He was not an advocate for your freedom. George Orwell should go to hell. George Orwell was a propagandist. In this movie, Animal Farm, that they have produced, he's an absolute affront to the memory of humanity. Russia is not our enemy. China is not our enemy. Wall Street is our enemy. But George Orwell would have you to believe that anywhere where ordinary people take power, that ordinary people are your enemy. And it's all over his books, the absolute disdain that he had for working people. The Soviet Union saved humanity from Nazi Germany. When black people in America weren't allowed to drink out of the same drinking fountains as white people, the Soviet Union raised the issues of racism at the United Nations. They published We Charge Genocide, the great report by William L. Patterson. They called out Jim Crow segregation, and they called out the United States for its treatment of African Americans. Had it not been for Stalin, had it not been for Mao, had it not been for the sacrifices of the Russian people, you would never have had a civil rights movement in this country. Because it so trivialized their sacrifices, because it so trivializes the advances that they made towards humanity and acted like they were just
$100 in the bank. And that's probably a hell of a lot less than it actually is. You don't even have 500 bucks to your name. And that's most of the people in America. The country of total poverty and propaganda. Poverty and propaganda, they go together. In order to keep you from resisting your impoverishment, they constantly propagandize people with baloney like Animal Farm and like 70% of the buildings in Manhattan are owned by one particular group of people. They own everything. You don't own your own home. Okay, you don't even have the right to live on land. You don't have the right to live anywhere. Housing is not your right. Your right is to just go out in the park and yell. You can yell in the park and you can't live in a house. Actually, your human right, your natural human right is the land and housing. Land and housing is the most fundamental human right of all. The right to land and housing.
George Orwell was a pessimist. He said that there is no hope. He said the future is a boot stomping on the human face. We don't need pessimism. The problem isn't human beings. The problem isn't just that human beings are naturally evil. The problem is the system. It's a system where profits come before people, and the greed of Wall Street and international bankers has priority over human life. Human labor power is the source of all wealth, and human beings can do amazing things when they come together. There's a reason that China has lifted 800 million people out of poverty. There's a reason that the Soviet Union was able to pioneer space travel and defeat the Nazi invaders and save humanity. There's a reason for that. Human beings have great potential, and they want us to hate ourselves. They want us to think that we're all just a bunch of farmers.